So, in the first session of Parinama for Beginners, we talk about and we do an exercise where we walk through the why would you ever do this? Why would you ever enter into the process of awakening? Um, it is hard. It destabilizes aspects of our lives that we wish were stable. So it's like moving in the opposite direction, despite the fact that these areas are actually unstable to begin with. It doesn't make it feel any better to move away. So what am I talking about? So what I'm talking about is the why of this. And we're reading the last section of the last chapter. And just as a reminder, I'm going back to do chapter 12 for a longer series, which is the building and creating current of using parinama, which is incredibly potent and if practiced is very effective for what is commonly called manifestation. But this is the complete connection between the philosophical and the practical application of it. And usually in what I've in my experience have seen is that you get parts of this like like the mindset stuff, but there's practical applied transformational work, 3D world stuff that is part of actually making something land in this reality. So the reason that the reason it's meaningful for me to teach that and to put that forward is that it's very important to me that the tools are available for people that want to be building the future and are called to be building a higher level of awareness and consciousness. And one of the gating factors of parinama and even the process of awakening, regardless of the mechanism you use, is that it is difficult and it's the experience of having things broken down and having to endure that and see it through it's a natural gating process that doesn't really make it possible to be able to use this extraordinary power for nefarious purposes. In fact, like the power that is used by what I'd call like darker forces in the world are actually just confusion. It's not using what this absolute power is, which is this deeper alignment. And I'm not going to really speak to that here, but the power, this is like a unity and an integrity that creates like solar systems. And this is opposed to a system of division that separates people from their power and can actually just use them because they're too scared or they're too ashamed. We're all in this system and we all know what it feels like. And so so in the Parinama for Beginners class, which I'm planning to actually re-release and do again in the new year, part of what we look at is like, why would you undergo this? Why would you go through this? Why would you get out of the matrix? Why would you get out of it? Especially if you're a beneficiary of it, as I, in many ways, consider myself to be. So what I'd point to is anxiety. If you are experiencing what anxiety is, like a destabilized sense of physical and mental security. And often it feels existential, like it's like, yeah, there really isn't anything wrong. And the thing is like part of what we do is we actually start to like find this unity in terms of our own stability internally and in our integrity. And by doing that, we're stepping away from a structure and a system that is trying to divide us to create that feeling so that we do not unify with our sense of actual security. because it's been defined in terms that are impossible, so they're never achievable. So it keeps everybody, it keeps most people on the back foot, right? Dullness, often called like depression, where the thing about feeling alive is the aliveness is in you right now, and it connects with exactly what you have. It connects with just being alive as being ultimately extraordinarily satisfying and fulfilling, even in the oogiest, darkest parts of it. That it's like the sense of being like in awe of how you have enough. If you're alive, and even if you're in pain, the sense of actual just aliveness, of feeling, of not being dissociated and disconnected from feeling. So to get into feeling and feeling alive, and in the separation, sort of the regime of separating, create separation by implanting a belief that the things that are going to bring you aliveness are the things that you have to achieve by participating in like consumerism and achievements that are sanctioned. So that simple aliveness that I know, if you're watching this, you know about it. And to what extent? To what extent, but to be in nature, to just realize like, like that, just the simplest things being like vibrant. Feeling trapped. Many, very relatable to people that when their power has been co-opted, there's a sense that's like kind of unnameable about the fact that it's like the life having no meaning and being trapped in having to do things that are like outside of integrity, and like working through that to rationalize, look, I have all these like nice things. It's like, I remember being like, running on the treadmill, like of buying things to solve for the feelings of emptiness. And that it like that feeling of like, I had like a personal trainer almost every day of the week. Had someone come and give me a massage for my house for like 2 hours every week. I had a cleaner. Like, I had all of these people around me, and I just would consume and buy things, and it created this sense of sort of like this sort of joy in a way. And also the fact that most of the stuff that I was investing heavily in was like people, which is also a clue. The things I really wanted was contact with people, like having, like all these people that work for me personally. But the thing is that I remember running on that treadmill, and all of a sudden, the thing is, the only thing I know is joyful is like these high levels of consumption. So the fear of getting off the treadmill was, it was like, I would just be kind of a gag looking at it and thinking like, oh my God, like if I get off this, like I'll be left with nothing, or I won't be able to have all these things that are just so great about being alive. I used to make lists of all the stuff that I didn't want to not be able to have anymore. And I just look at it and I think, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to have these things if I give this up, this thing that's choking me to death, this career, this lifestyle that is just so absolutely impeding, like it's tapping me out. The thing of feeling trapped and tapped out in a career and a job and a life, and not, and the only thing that feels good about it is actually part of the trap. And knowing that, you can know that and still be kind of like, how do I get out of this? And that has to do with going back to second hub things of being able to reconnect with feeling. And it's like just there. It's just there. It's just dulled over. And there's just constant, there's just constant systemic mechanisms that just keep us getting re-separated, using shame, using guilt, using things like this is what your body should look like. So it's like in your body, you can't even be comfortable. I mean, that's like one of the best like ways that this nefarious mechanism works is it makes you feel like you're just always trying to like fix this. Like it's like this needs to be fixed. It's like there's always it's like, oh my God. Um and on the other side of this, there's this love. I don't even know. Yeah, I'll tell you, I don't even know whether it's true or not about, like, what I look like, but I, like, love the way I look. Whether I look better or not, I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't really matter because it's the feeling. Yeah, and, I was in a store like, a few weeks ago, and I was having a conversation with the woman who was working there, and she was saying about how one of her friends has said she completely accepts that in her lifetime, she will never be able to shed her complicated relationship with her body. And for women, it's not only that we have this complicated relationship, it's just that it's also like to the level you're allowed to speak about how deep it goes. And and I just thought, wow, like that's first of all, it's not true, but it is true because this work is so hard. Going back to why the shedding of this is and it's like and so a reminder just to touch back in, I'm talking about why would you ever do this? Why would you ever do this? And liberation is one reason because it's being liberated from that, like that it is possible. So it's a full circle here, which is that it's like, yes, it's very difficult, but it's like, why would you want it? And it's like to be delivered from that. Another thing is feeling alienated, feeling alone with yourself, feeling kind of like a stranger, like abandoning oneself, not like the thing of worthiness, like the question of am I worthy is a separation because there's no question that you're like it's more than worthy. It's not like enough. Like it's like extraordinary. There's like you're an extraordinary phenomenon. Every human being, everything alive is an extraordinary phenomenon. And the separation from that is something that I've found to be particularly astonishing because I had notions about the fact that, in terms of my own process with parinama, about my separation, like I like kind of knowing to a certain extent what having like an underlying hyper vigilance around physical security and money, where like that, it's like okay, and dullness and even disconnection from my power to a certain extent. But the thing that I didn't understand, because I just didn't see anything culturally that even allowed or pointed to this, was how deep the love that is naturally arising from within ourselves is. And that loneliness isn't solved by another person. I'd never known this until I had the direct experience with it, which is that there's this separation in terms of like our like and it's like self-love isn't even the right word because it's like that even creates this sort of thing like there's a self-love. It's like the like consider the heart like this magnetic field that's just radiating. And it's really powerful. And once it gets unlocked and once it gets it like the layers of revelation, I'm gonna read on that this in a minute, is that it creates this very like passive energy field that is both generous and receptive and ever present. Like the fourth hub stuff, it's like it's ever present. It's like it's always been there. You've always been breathing. Your heart's always been beating. Like, that's, like, this physical evidence of this, and that the revealing of this opens opens up capacity and possibility that make just everyday life a connection. Feeling gagged, feeling like you can't say what you really think, and different people have different experiences with this, with not being able to express what you feel, not knowing what you feel, but even having thoughts, or being in situations where you can't really speak up. And this is something that there's different levels of consciousness around this, but the underlying tension, because everybody, as far as I know, has some aspect of this, which is seeing things and not being able to, like, even being done to you or being done to other people or societally, and not being able to say anything. And this creates a tangle of rationalization around it because it's really hard. These um, adaptations, these behaviors of adaptation are really tough to live with. So we have to make sense of them in a way where we get to continue to be the protagonist, like the hero of our story. But there is this like underlying sense of like tension in the neck, in the throat, jaw tight, grinding teeth, like holding something back, feeling confused, feeling like I know I don't understand, like just feeling like I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. Like that, feeling, and also like feeling foggy, feeling like something's being hidden from you. So, I mean, I could go on. I could go on. I could go on, but what I just want to point to with this is like why would we do this? Why would we go through this? Why? That's why, because what is on offer here, I'm gonna fix my hair a little bit when I'm looking at myself. It's like, whoa. What's on offer here is a return to remembering what you are. The underlying tensions, and it's like even even like the thing of being like, I don't know what it is. What is this thing? What is this feeling? What is this? That the sense that it's like, well, if I don't know what it is, then why is there tension here? And it's because it needs to be revealed, and it's like it's creating the space for it. It's that the programming is subconscious, that it either, happened before episodic memory was possible, or it is piled on top of that and has been rationalized to just be able to adapt and make sense of being able to like survive and make it. And so it's this process, this continuous path of awakening is extraordinarily challenging, and there's no end. So the idea, it's like one of the things, like when I see like the kids talking about awakenings, when I see people talking about awakenings as like a final stop of being like, I had my awakening, as it's like that, it's like I've arrived. It's like it's a continuous arrival, because it's the quality of it, I think, extends past what our technology allows us to comprehend, which is the infinity and even maybe the finite the combination of finiteness and infinity in a way that like a fractal would capture, which is like to expanding out in something that has like kind of the same quality expressed in different ways, but also completely the same. It's this kind of, yeah, I mean, one thing I can definitely say right now is I've been having a tough time articulating things because there's this convergence of all of these different complementary opposites, like multiple coming together at the same time. So I'm doing the best I can. I'm doing the best I can. But so, what am I getting at here? Who knows? But but what I am saying is that this is the end of the chapter 13. and I'm not gonna I am going back to chapter 12. But what I'm going to point to is people have asked me, or I've been asked, like, okay, I finished the book. Very few people finish this book quickly, if at all. Some people read chapter 1 and it's so activating for them. It's really common that this is very activating and overwhelming. And if it is, it's like allowing for this to exist as something for you when you are ready to keep stepping through. My own process, talked about this before, is like I just walked up to it for like almost 30 years. I kept wanting to do this, and then I'd recede because I'd want, it's like the sense of being able to have, what I'd consider conventional life was so compelling. But it's just this surging of this true nature that is internal, just wouldn't let it happen because it's not, I'm not gonna say what it's not, but so the patience of this, and I don't remember what I wrote on here or what came out here, but having a patience in this process, about the ebbs and flows of it, of being able to do this. There's this kind of notion of like, well, I found this thing, it's really powerful, it's like led to some breakthroughs. Why do I stop doing it? Because you did. And that's just how it goes. It's ebbs and flows. There's expansions, there's recoils, there's integrations, and these cycles can take years. You can have an expansion, you can snap back in a recoil, and then the integration to just sort of become, it's like the elastic analogy where you snap it snaps back, and then the form, once it comes to resting, is, like bigger than, longer or whatever than it was before the additional snap. But I think one of the things that I think we'll see in this section that was really important to articulate was that, I think it's in here, and that this is really ongoing. So the idea that there's a destination to reach is incorrect. There is nowhere to go. There's nowhere to be. You're here. There's nothing about you that needs to be fixed. This becoming another, actually, well, why don't I read? See what I won't spoiler alert here. Right, yeah, or maybe I already have. So this is, if you're following along, page 309, and the heading is conscious reclamation and ongoing process. So are you ready? So you are alive and living a life. Little by little, enlightenment happens through silver linings and the so-called blessings in disguise of hardship and the amazing grace of insight and awakenings that come without effort in times of tranquility. There are moments of brilliance followed by recoil and regression, and sometimes long periods of mundane living. This is your life. The mountaintops, the valleys, the journey in between. The primary shift occurs when we can see and know that we are not the journey itself, but the presence within us that's having the experience. Your life is the experience, and you are what's experiencing it. Pay attention and be patient with yourself. The Parinama method is an exploration, a discovery, and an allowing, and gives you the tools to consciously reclaim and become aware of the programming that blocks you from the truth about your capability. The truth is that within you, there's immeasurable capacity for love and creation. You are an essential part of a world that needs you to listen, to be patient, to empower, to feel, and to fight for the evolution of humanity. Your body doesn't know how to lie. It adapts, but it never lies. However, your mind has a very sophisticated ability to perceive and rationalize in the service of your survival. And so your thoughts can be and often are deceptive. Nonetheless, your posture, body language, and so-called vibe constantly communicate to the world and influence how people see you, and as a result, how they respond to you. Your body houses the sensation of what it feels like to be alive, and it shapes how you think about life. Through adaptations to circumstances and experiences, the body shifts as it stiffens or grows slack and resigned, often getting stuck in patterns. We often believe these patterns are who we are. Self-awareness and the ease that comes with the ongoing process of conscious reclamation releases long-held limitations, ultimately generating the charisma and magnetism of people who are both comfortable with themselves and self-aware. As your inner experience shifts, the ease and confidence that come with unblocking rigidity change how the world responds to you. Happiness is magnetic, and even when you're unhappy, your self-aware authenticity can be compelling. The parinama of it all is the brilliant shifting iridescence of this life, constantly revealing new dynamics and perspectives, then dissolving into something else. We are nomads traveling the seasons of our lives, surrounded by an ever-changing world. There's no standing still, and there's no arrival at a final conclusion or an absolute certainty that's real. The opportunity to be in a practice that liberates your true nature and achieves access to your greater potential is here right now. It's not an end goal for the future. It's happening in this very moment. Your consciousness allows you to be an active creator of your life, to push back on interrupting forces, and to reclaim your humanity by releasing holding patterns. There's something important for you to do with your experience of life and for the greater good of yourself and the world. And whatever this is, it's as unique and as identifying as your DNA. You have a mission, and if you're waiting or looking for a sign to act, this is it. This is it. See you next time.